Hi everyone, thank you for joining us for today's webinar on bots, the new face of the enterprise world. My name is Vinisha and I handle marketing at Acuvate. I'll be your host for today. Today's webinar is brought to you by Acuvate Software and Microsoft. We are glad to have Simon Michael, Senior Tech Evangelist from Microsoft, and Abhishek Shanbag, Practice Head for Solutions from Acuvate, who would be presenting today's webinar. Simon is a senior technical evangelist within the developer experiences team at Microsoft UK. He has worked with UK developers and companies to help them understand and get the best from the Microsoft platform. His current focus is the bot framework, cognitive services, and conversation as a platform. Simon holds a BSc Honours and PhD in computer science. Abhishek is the co-founder of Acuvate and brings with him 12 plus years of strong expertise on the Microsoft stack. He has consulted with clients globally to provide solutions on technologies such as SharePoint, Office 365, and Azure. His current focus is artificial intelligence, bots and machine learning, and their applications in the enterprise world. I'll start a quick introduction of our company, which will be followed by presentations from Simon and Abhishek. We will take questions from the participants at the end of the webinar. Okay, so let's get started. Acuvate has been in the industry for 10 years, working for clients from across different geos and industries. Some of our key clients are Reckitt Benckiser, Heidelberg Siemens, Kia Group, West Midland Fire Services, Crowe Clark Whitehill, etc. We have won several awards from Microsoft and others, including Microsoft Solution Partner of the Year, and have been named as one of the Fast 500 technology companies by Deloitte. Recently, MeshBot, which is an intranet bot developed by us, won the Best Use of Emerging Technology Award by TechWorld. Acuvate builds intelligent enterprise applications using bots, artificial intelligence, automation, and cognitive services. Some technologies that we work on are SharePoint, Office 365, Power BI, SQL Data Warehouse, and Azure, to name a few. Be sure to stay tuned till the end of the presentation for the demos, where you will see our enterprise bots in action. During the webinar, all the attendees are muted to avoid any interruptions. If you have any questions, please feel free to type in the space. If you have any specific question for Simon or Abhishek, please do mention their name in your question. Before I hand it over to Simon, here's a quick question for you all. Please help me with your responses. And here it goes. Have you rolled out a bot within your enterprise? Yes or no? All right, we have received a 75% no. That's great. Thanks everyone for the response. Over to you, Simon.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm just going to share my screen, or at least try to anyway. It's not allowing me to share my screen. Okay. Okay, so hopefully everybody should now be able to see my screen, my first slide. Just to confirm that.
Yes,
yeah, okay, perfect. Okay, look, thanks ever so much everybody for joining, and thanks for the introduction. So what we're going to talk to a little bit today is around Microsoft conversations in the platform. What does that mean? And actually what we're doing within AI. So really it all comes down to this quest for answers. You know, we've got a rapid growth in data collected around from various devices, and it's all kind of sitting in either within various internal data stores or on the cloud. But there's, you know, we need better ways to understand this data. We need better ways of extracting that key information and understanding the data quickly. But of course we're all constrained by time. You know, our human capacity to absorb that data and to understand it. So we need to start to improve that. So from a perspective of artificial intelligence, Microsoft views AI across these four different pillars. It's kind of a high-level view of the portfolio. So we've got things like agents, so Cortana, personal digital assistants. We've got applications, so this is where AI is infused within our applications. And we've been in AI for quite a number of years, and it's infused within various Office and Dynamics, for example, across various products such as Pix. It's in consumer products such as Xbox, and in much of our customer service. Then we've got the building blocks, the services that we enable and provide to you to allow you to build out intelligence into your solutions. And this is, bot framework and cognitive, and it's things like machine learning and cognitive toolkits. And then we've got the underlying infrastructure. This is CPU and GPU at scale. This is the metal that you can get hold of, the compute power that you can use. But for today, we're just going to really focus around bot framework. We're going to talk a little bit about cognitive services, and we'll talk a little bit about Cortana. Our vision, I mean, this is our kind of mission, really, for Microsoft, is to democratize AI, is to take that power, to give you the ability to have those tools and put those tools in the availability and into the hands of your developers, to every business, to enable you to start to use intelligence and start to understand data within your organization. But I just want to make it very clear, this is very much about, it's just loading up actually, but it seems to have a bit, there we go. This is very much about human and machine, and not human versus machine. This is very much about augmentation and not replacement. So this is about tech working with us, it's about creating richer experiences, and it's about using tech to augment our lives to enable us to achieve more. So what about applying intelligence to our interaction with the technology? We want to take this power of human language and make it the new UI layer. So it's about enabling users to converse better with each other and, more importantly, perhaps with the data in better ways. So the way that we view this is we call this conversations a platform. We view kind of three key players in this space. We've got humans. We all talk to each other via to friends, colleagues, and family. We've got bots, and we'll talk more about those during this session and about what they are and how they enable us to communicate. And then we've got personal digital assistants such as Cortana from Microsoft. And actually, all of these kind of work together very well. This is about creating this kind of triangle of communication where humans can talk to each other, they can talk to bots, and they can talk to personal digital assistants. But actually where you're likely to see this going is where personal digital assistants will start to be able to talk to bots on your behalf. They'll broker the conversations on your behalf. Now, in terms of humans, for example, we've been doing a lot of work on Skype, enabling, for example, real-time audio translation and automatic text translation between multiple languages. So in terms of the world and where we are at the moment, and we're kind of transforming the way that we're communicating, and these are kind of the pivotal moments we've had over the various decades. We started with GUI apps and desktop, moved through to web and browsers, then on to smartphone and native applications, and now we're starting to see more interaction around conversational interfaces. So things like messaging applications such as WhatsApp, WeChat, Skype, and things like voice, for example, with Cortana, with Siri, with Alexa. People are getting more used to using these interfaces. Now, I'm not saying that these are going to instantly replace the native applications and the web. I mean, when we started using native applications, web still existed, and we still use web very much today. But actually, we'll start to see people using these interfaces more and more. And actually, you can also see that these messaging applications can be used to augment the desktop applications, the browser applications, and the native applications, in addition to those messaging applications. So let's have a look at actually what is a bot. Well, it's an app. Like an app, it solves a problem. It exists across different channels, and it can exist across different platforms. But effectively, it sits in front of some kind of process, some kind of task that needs to be done. Unlike apps, bots are easier to build, they're quicker to publish, and they're easier to publish everywhere. It kind of goes away that issue around having to potentially go through the bottleneck of testing against various hardware devices. It goes away the review processes that need and the delays caused by various store review processes. So there are definite advantages to bots. So why now? So the first real catalyst is artificial intelligence. So the ability to process language, to converse with humans, to understand the world, and just to understand language, I suppose, via simple interfaces. You know, this machine capability is now available much easier way. The increased quantities of data captured from numerous devices, you know, we talked about, and so the need to extract that information quickly and identify patterns efficiently. It's about making that user able to seamlessly connect with the data. And then there's this rise of messaging usage apps globally. So actually, you know, people are using these messaging applications to communicate with their users, with their friends and family. So if you can be on the same platform as that and be in front of them so that they can communicate with your service in the same way as they communicate with your friends, then that's a reduced barrier, a friction barrier. So in terms of messaging applications, there's over 4 billion people using messaging and chat apps every day at the moment. So WhatsApp, WeChat, Facebook Messenger, Skype, Snapchat, you can see the numbers there, and they're growing rapidly across these messaging platforms. But what value for your business? So there's broader access to customers. You know, we talked about this across these various canvases, and the ability to reach customers where they are rather than expecting them to come to your experience. There's this improved customer experience and cost of serving that experience. To be able to move kind of tier 1 queries to bots to allow them to answer frequently asked questions. The ability to improve individual and team productivity as well, using natural language interfaces and conversational flow. And then actually the ability to inject new life into applications, you know, that may be stuck with maybe a command line or a simpler GUI interface. You can start to inject life into that using conversational flow. So from a Microsoft perspective, just wait for the slide to catch up, there we go. Microsoft perspective, we've got the Microsoft Bot Framework. It's a set of tools that allows you to create conversational interfaces, to manage dialogues of conversation, to create fluid conversation between human and machine. And it's very much what will be demoed later on. So why the Bot Framework? So the important thing here is you can write once. So you can write, the Bot Builder SDK is open source, is available on GitHub, and you can write with C# or Node. You can register your bot and manage that bot all in one place. You host the bot in one place, but then you can deploy to many different languages, many different channels. And you can see here on the slide. So I can build my bot once, I can host it once, and I'm deploying to many different consumer and productivity channels. So that, you know, Facebook Messenger, Skype, for example, on consumer side, Slack, Microsoft Teams on productivity side. The ability to have a web view, a customizable web view with a web chat window. The ability to have direct line, which is the REST APIs, the kind of bare metal APIs, so you can start to integrate messaging into your native applications, for example. It's really, really powerful, and we continue to build out the capabilities and the number of channels. So this slide here will shows you the you know, how the bot framework handles all of this. You know, I built once using the bot framework, and I've exposed it out on the web chat, the Facebook and Skype. This is a utility bot, and you can see how the bot framework handles all of that for you. It's really very nice at scaling across different channels. But what happens if we want to start to think about adding intelligence to the bot? So we have a set of services called cognitive services that enable you to start to inject some intelligence into this. So this is a set of 25 APIs, so 66 different kind of endpoints that you can call from your applications. And these can cover things across vision, so for example, emotion detection in images, facial recognition, image caption ID, speech to text, text to speech. We've got language, so spell checking, language understanding, sentiment analysis, text analysis, translation, automatic translation. We've got things like Q&A maker, and I'll cover that off in more detail in a second. And then we've got the ability to expose out many of the really powerful functionality from Bing across news, image, video, and web search. So two of the very popular, commonly used cognitive services. The first one is language understanding. It's called LUIS, the Language Understanding Intelligence Service, and this is about taking natural language understanding, so taking a sentence and being able to determine the intent and detect entities. This is about ability to build out very simply a machine learning model using natural language, which you can then utilize within your bots. You can start to understand natural language and start to undertake functions based on that. The other one is Q&A maker. So this is about the ability to take an existing set of frequently asked questions. Maybe you've got that live on your website, maybe you've got them in a Word document, in a PDF. And this kind of pairing of questions and answers, you can take this, upload it very quickly, and build, train, and publish a Q&A bot that you can then expose via a conversational flow. And you know that kind of takes a few minutes really to get up and running. Some other ideas around bots and cognitive, for example. So we talked about the computer vision, so things like OCR for capturing information such as receipts, the ability for facial and voice verification and authentication. We talked about the understanding intent with Lewis. Things like auto-suggest API, so actually easing the query input for a bot. We talked things like conversational interfaces for frequently asked questions with a Q&A maker. And then, of course, all of that work across translation APIs, auto-translation, automatic language detection, and speech and both speech and voice, speech and text translation. The other nice thing about bots is actually the ability to have two-way conversations. We call these proactive bots, and you can think of these as actually effectively notification mechanisms within a bot. So, for example, and maybe I've got maybe I'm using the bot within Skype or Facebook Messenger. And in the same way as a friend could message me and it would appear, the bot can do the same. So clearly I've had to establish connection with the bot initially, but once I've done that and I've been using the bot, it can then start to notify me if I want to. So this example shows a very simple notification about the reminder or alert. It says, you know, somebody's birthday, would you like to send them something? A useful one here is about long-running tasks. So I can fire off a task, maybe to ascertain some information, pull some data, extract some data reports, for example, and it will queue that up and then send me back the data or the results I want once it's got established the results. And the other thing that I can do with that is things like cross-selling and upselling. Now, clearly you don't want to be spamming users, and this is not about doing that because they'll just disconnect, but this is about giving them information they want, when they want it, where they want it. So in terms of an X-ray of a typical bot, you know, we've got the kind of channels on the right-hand side that interact with the bot connector service that's then connected to the bot, and you can see your bot and the code on the left-hand side. So a message comes in, it then gets handled by your bot code, but also we can pass it through those cognitive services to start to introduce things like natural language understanding, to start to introduce things like translation and sentiment analysis, for example. And then, of course, you've got all the goodness of your underlying data behind that, you know, through various different APIs. Number one rule for a great bot: just make sure it's got an absolute clear purpose that it can achieve quicker and more conveniently than other options. What do I mean by other options? I mean better than apps, better than websites, because actually you need to think when using a bot and a conversational interface, make sure that it's allowing the user to do things quickly and actually it's achieving things quicker than those other mediums. Otherwise, there's no point in it existing. So as we need to be careful when having a bot that, you know, we don't make the user type too much, that there's not dead ends in conversations, and you know, we don't ask them to talk too much, etc. And that's where expertise really helps. So what about some of the scenarios that we think make sense for a bot? And you know, this is not a definitive list. This is a list that we've worked on and we've spoken to customers with. So definitely knowledge base, frequently asked bots. You know, the ability to have the bot answer to triage queries and try to take away some of that information very quickly. Give the information back to the customer very quickly is really important. And by customer, I don't just mean consumer facing, I mean internal as well. So you can use the Q&A maker, you can use, for example, AZURE search, you can effectively use any kind of API that sits behind that to allow you to interact from a bot using with your data. And of course, you know, the example screenshot there shows things like buttons. And you can have hero cards or images and buttons, and you can use natural language as well. Bots adapt. So actually the ability to have, I can see it's still updating, oh, there we go. So this is an example of a thing we call the AZURE bot. The code's available, I'll show you the sample in a second. But this allows me to be able to start bots can accelerate that simple and repetitive solution using frequently asked questions bots, using triage bots. We can start to take advantage of bots to try to try to answer many of those queries to ease the strain on the human customer service engineers on the other side. So an example of this that we actually use within Microsoft, this is live on our support site, and it supports 100% of English language traffic coming to support.microsoft.com. And this is a virtual agent and an agent assist. So you can come in and you can ask a query using our bot framework about various questions around various products, so Skype, Windows, Xbox, etc. And you can see I've got a bit of a demo there that's going on. So what happens there is it will ask various questions and try to assist, and actually we see a large number of issues being resolved without human assistance at that point. However, there's always issues that still need to be handled. So at this point it says, hope that helped. If not, please rephrase your question, or you can talk to a person. At which point it hands over to an agent. But what it's done is actually, this is the agent experience you can see on the left-hand side, and it's talking to it. But on the right-hand side, what we can see is the information the bot has collected. It's summarized, it's collated that information, so the user doesn't have to start to reiterate and start to explain the issue again. The agent's fully up to speed, and all of this can be built using the bot framework. What about some other key bot scenarios? So we talked about customer service, augmenting customer service agents, frequently asked questions, order tracking. Where's my parcel? Where's my item? You can have the bot proactively, or you can have the bot answer that, but then proactively provide notifications. Resolving issues around things like policies and accounts. In productivity, so internal scenarios, report generation, extracting data and analytics of data, and able to use natural language to pull out key information whilst you're on the road, whilst you're on the move, maybe visiting a potential customer. You can pull in information from your back-end services up to date. Communication around proactive offers, we showed an example of that, and user feedback, etc. And then, of course, employee support, booking meetings, HR, booking leave, for example, and again, that's where proactive really comes in. New user onboarding and training. A few kind of emerging rules for success with bots. Always try to start fairly simply. Think about scenarios which make sense for bots. Try to stay focused on the job. And actually, as I said, some bots don't need AI at all, but clearly AI works and helps in many situations. But some bots can work just on menu-driven guided paths. And also, it's really important to keep learning, to have that user feedback. Okay, so it's actually really important to instrument the solution, to be able to understand what questions are being asked by the user, what ones are you missing, so that you can then retrain your natural language, so you can then refocus the FAQs that are being handled to enable the future users to have their issues resolved, and therefore you'll make the bot stickier. The retention will be much better. So, we think that bots represent a really exciting channel for businesses. They reach customers anywhere, across any device. You can engage in a more natural and conversational way, and it improves customer experience and reduces the need for human assistance. So there's a set of resources on the right-hand side there. I'm sure we'll share them out afterwards as well. and that's just linked to various samples, tutorials, case studies, etc. That's me done. Thank you.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks for the wonderful insights. I definitely learned a lot. All right, now I have 2 questions for you all. Please help me with your responses. And here it goes. Are you planning to roll out a bot in the next 6 months? Okay, here comes the second question. What are the functions you wish to automate using bots? IT, HR, legal, finance, or others? Wow, thanks for your great responses. It was really awesome. And now I would like to bring on Abhishek from Acuvate.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Vinisha. Thanks for the introductions. And thanks, everyone, for joining our webinar today. I've started sharing my screen here, and I hope you can see it. So I've got a few slides where I'll talk a little bit about how we are using some of the great solutions that Microsoft has provided us in terms of bot framework, cognitive services, and APIs, as well as Azure, Office 365, and SharePoint. What you're seeing here is a list of our ready-to-deploy solutions, and as Vinisha had mentioned early on, Acuvate as a company, we work on a variety of different applications across the Microsoft stack, which includes Office 365, SharePoint, etc. And these are some of the ready-to-deploy solutions that we have built on the Microsoft stack. So at the core of it, we have Mesh, which is an intranet accelerator for SharePoint Online. We also have Wave, which is an idea management system for SharePoint Online, as well as Pact, which does the same for project and collaboration. We have recently launched MeshBot, which is an AI chatbot for SharePoint intranets, and that's something that recently won us the Best Use of Emerging Tech Award by Tech World. We'll be demonstrating that in our webinar here today. A couple of other solutions like Seek, which provides deep insights on your SharePoint intranet, really helps you to measure the level of adoption, etc., as well as others like Power BI, Yamit, Lightning 365, etc. So in the series of demos and what I'm going to be talking about, we're going to show you what we have done with what Microsoft has given in terms of bot framework, cognitive APIs, etc. So we have built an IP around some of the best that Microsoft has given. And what you're seeing here is the Acuvate Intelligent Apps Accelerator. This is the reusable and redeployable IP that we have built on top of the Microsoft stack. So at the core of it, we have something called as Bot Core, which is an enterprise bot builder. This means that in the future, if you would like to build bots using the Microsoft stack, you can definitely use the Acuvate Bot Core, which provides you all of the enterprise-ready features like security, which does user authentication, user authorization, multi-factor authentication using SMS-based OTPs. You can use trigger module for triggering certain messages out from the bot to the end users. This is similar to what Simon mentioned about the proactive bot. We have the entire conversation modeling system, wherein we have the message definition using which users can easily create bots responses, bot memory and state management, wherein you can create contextual conversations for the bot so that the bot can remember the context of the conversations and then appropriately help the users. Knowledge-based standard responses, intent and entity handling, as well as integration hooks. We also provide a bot administration console, which we'll be showcasing to you. So using that admin console, users can easily start training bots. So if you're an IT person or if you're a SharePoint administrator, you can easily start training and launching your own set of enterprise bots using the bot code. You can see all of the different chat logs that were generated. You can do user control as well as channel authentication. For example, if you have a bot that's rolled out to Facebook, Teams, Skype, etc., and for some reason you want to stop or enable any of these channels, you can easily do that all from within the administrative interface. We also have the AI platform, which is a service abstraction layer using which you can hook in into any of the cognitive APIs provided to hear me back again. Yeah, looks like we're back online. So sorry about that, folks. Looks like we faced a few audio issues out here, but we are back online now. Okay, great. So as you can see, what we have built out here is the Acuvate Intelligent Apps Accelerator, and this can easily help you to build and launch your enterprise bots. Okay, so with that, let me get into the demonstrations of our various bots. And before we go there, I just wanted to ensure that we are able to that you all are able to see what I'm presenting, and if there are any questions, we'll probably take a look at those as well. Okay, all right. So it looks like we are back. Okay, so great. If you can see my screen, I just wanted to quickly showcase a couple of our bots out here to you. And let me start off with an example of a mesh bot, which is our intranet bot. As you can see here, I'm currently logged into SharePoint online intranet. And within the intranet, you can see that this intranet is our mesh solution, which is our ready-to-deploy intranet on Office 365. And it's got all of those different web parts that you would typically see in a SharePoint portal, like announcements, birthdays, news, etc. But you can also see there's an embedded chat window here, and there's a bot sitting out here which can help users. So if I go and ask the bot, what can you do? So one of the best practices that we have built into all of the bots that we build is that each bot can answer the question, what can you do? So that users can easily find out what are the bot's capabilities and how is it that the bot can help me. So here's an example. So when I ask this bot, what can you do? It says, I can help you with time off and leave information, searching the intranet, etc. So this is one example by which MeshBot surfaces itself and helps users through the web interface. Now let's also take a look at the same bot running within Microsoft Teams. And if you are an Office 365 customer, I'm sure you know about Microsoft Teams, which is a great collaboration tool for Teams. And you can see that the same mesh bot is now available here within Microsoft Teams. And let me go ahead and ask a question saying what's new. So as this bot is connected with the SharePoint, with your intranet, it is able to go and fetch the latest that's happening on the intranet in terms of events, birthdays, any other important messages and announcements that were added onto the intranet. Now, as Simon was explaining earlier, that bots can live on multiple channels. And let me show you the example of this bot running here within my Skype. So if I go and ask the same question to this bot on Skype, it does the same operation. It already knows who I am, and it goes and fetches the latest information that's published on my intranet. Obviously, I can train the bot to do a lot more things. I also have the bot running on my Facebook. So here's my Facebook Messenger. Let me just minimize some of those windows so we can focus on that. Okay, so here you can see that the same bot is also available on Facebook. So if I ask the bot, what can you do? It responds back with the same set of messages that were answered. And then I can also ask the bot a question like, okay, search for policies. Search for policies. So now what the bot is doing is, it's going and searching in my SharePoint intranet, and it's going to find certain policies, and it is going to bring back that info. So you can see the bot has found out company agent policies, per diem policy, mesh policies, etc., with a hyperlink to that particular document which exists within SharePoint. Now, as you can see, bots can exist on multiple channels. This means that you can have this bot also running on your mobile device, and such kind of questions you can easily ask while you're on the move, or you could be away from your corporate intranet. And so Meshbot helps to improve the intranet adoption. It reduces the need for training and support because you can train the bot to answer a lot more questions about intranet usage, or where your policies are located, or for your new employees and new people who join the company, the bot can proactively help them to find the latest information about company policy, etc. Hence, with using bots of this nature within your enterprise, you can easily create a better employee engagement. So this was one example of the bot. Let me also show you examples of few more bots that we have here, starting with a customer support bot that we have built. So this particular bot is running on my Skype, and it's a customer support bot. And one of the things that we have done with this bot is that we are hooking into multiple cognitive API services. So this bot can not only identify what the user wants by hooking into Language Understanding Intelligence Service, or LUIS, but it also is hooked into Bing Translation API and Text Analysis APIs to in real time identify the language of the user's communication and then translate the responses back. So here, if I ask the bot, what can you do? It says, as a customer service bot, I can help you for deliveries. I can help you with order status information, listing of orders, etc. So I'll say, okay, what are my deliveries for today? And so the bot goes out and it fetches information about today's deliveries. Obviously, in the backend, this bot is integrated with its portal services, like the ERP system or the CRM system, and it is bringing all this information from there. Now I can ask the same question in a different language. So I've got a couple of languages here. So I have the same thing in French. So let me ask, what can you do to the bot in French? And so you'll see that the response is again back in French. So what the bot has done right now is it has taken the input message, translated, understood what language it is, and hence when it is responding back to the user, it is doing all this translation in real time. So what are the advantages that you can get with such kind of bots? So definitely with customer service bot, you can improve the customer experience. You can reduce the support costs because you will have a bot here which will be able to do first line of question answering by your customers. You can then roll out a single bot to your customers across multiple countries, multiple languages. So it really helps to reduce the development time and the maintenance time that you would have for, let's say, a traditional application, which would be like a customer portal or a place where people would log in. And the best thing is you can deliver these bots to your customer on their Skype or on their Facebook. So for example, if you have your company page or your product page, and anybody who goes and likes your product page would automatically be able to chat with your customer service agent bot within their Facebook Messenger. Let's also take a look at another bot, which is a Sales Intelligent Assistant bot. And this bot can answer questions by hooking into a data warehouse. So this is a special kind of bot which we are calling as BI bots, or Business Intelligence bots. So let me start by chatting and by saying the bot hello. And just imagine that you're having, this is the very first time that you're having a conversation with this bot. So the bot says, hello, I'm at your service, and ask me what I can do for you, and shows a single button. And obviously, you know, the first thing that I would do is try to click on that button and see what happens. And then it shows a list of different options that this bot can do. And here you can see that we are not only making it really simple for the users to interact with the bots, We are also driving some amount of user experience and training so that the person who's chatting with the bot is also learning about the bot's capabilities as they interact with the bot or the agent. And this is what we call as conversational modeling. So even though the technology today exists wherein you can build and roll out bots, conversational modeling is extremely is an important aspect. It is akin to having a great UI or a great UX on your website or portal. Having a great conversation is what differentiates a great bot from a good bot. Okay, so I want to know about how my business is performing, and I click on that button, and it brings back the market share across different countries. Now I can start asking questions in natural language. So I want to know what is my market share by category for Brazil, let's say, for last year. Okay, so I've asked the bot, what's my market share for Brazil for last year? And the bot comes back. It has interpreted my question. It knows that I'm asking a question about market share, and I need to show the information by category, and it's for Brazil. So it is bringing back all this information to me. Now let me ask another question, and this is, as I said, this is a retail sales assistant, and the same thing could be built for your specific data as well. So I'm going to ask, what is the MSL, which stands for must stock list, which is a retail KPI for India for last year. Okay, so the bot says, okay, here is the MSL compliance percentage for India for last year, and here you can see that I didn't have to specify something like last financial year or calendar year. The bot is already trained to understand that market share is a KPI that is seen by calendar year, and here's how I need to show it. So now I can start asking questions like, okay, show that by brand. So all I'm asking the bot to do is show that by brand, and the bot already knows from the conversation. It understands the context, and it says that the MSL compliance for India for 2016 by brand is so and so. So here you see what we are doing. Just like how you would have a conversation with another human being, every single time you really don't have to specify, what you are talking about and what's the context of the conversation. Using the bot core, we are able to do state management and context handling within the bot, and which in turn talks to bot framework, talks to SQL, talks to other services, and ensures that the right information is shown to the users. Now I can ask the same thing, say, what about stores? So I want to see the same data by stores. And now it is bringing back the same information of compliance for India for last year, store-wise. Bots also have the ability to render things like images, carousels, etc. So I'm going to say, show that as a chart. So now I'm going to ask the bot to render a chart for me. Obviously, what we are doing out here is we are taking a snapshot of an already existing report, and we are securely bringing it back and showing it to the user here on the Skype channel. And if you remember, one of the most important things that Simon mentioned early on is that a bot is a software. Obviously, you can make it more intelligent. You can have it connect to all of your different applications. And here, let me show an example of that. Email that to me. So I'm asking the bot to email that report to me. And because a bot is something which is also hooked into the email services, it's going to take that report, which I'm asking questions regarding, to the bot, and it's going to just shoot it off in an email to me. So here are a few examples of different kinds of bots and different scenarios. Obviously, with bots, what you get is you are able to free up the time of your important and critical resources. Most of the repetitive things can be done by a bot. So in case of the sales bot example, let's say you would have someone sitting and answering all these questions for your sales teams or maybe for other employees. You can eliminate all of that and have them focus on work that can add more value and make your organization more productive. And bots can take care of doing most of these first level aspects of answering questions or bringing back the right information when you need it. Okay, so now let me show you a real quick overview of our bot code. And this is something that we have been actively building and deploying for our customers. So using the bot core, what we have done is we have been able to simplify the whole process of bot creation. We have been driven by Satya Nadella's vision of democratizing AI. And so with bot core, what we are trying to do is we are trying to democratize the whole process of creating an enterprise bot. So if I'm a business analyst or if I'm a business user and I have a certain scenario, maybe it could be on IT, it could be on HR, it could be on first level of support, etc., and I want to start building a bot. Yes, I can certainly start using the bot framework. I can start building a custom bot using all of that, but we have done most of that hard work and legwork for you. And using bot core, you can start building your enterprise bot. So this is one of the administrative interface for one of the bots that we are currently running, and it shows you, for example, this chart here shows you the different conversations that the bot has been having with different users. Here it shows you what are some of the top questions that people are asking. You can also see different users and what sort of questions they have asked with the bot. All of our bots are intelligent bots, so they connect to language understanding intelligence service. So here you can see that the bots are connecting to multiple cognitive APIs right here from this particular interface. And as you would see that one of the things that we have done with the bot core is that we have surfaced the whole administrative interface within SharePoint. This can be deployed on SharePoint on-premise as well as on SharePoint Online. So if you're an existing user of SharePoint, it becomes really easy for you to just log in and start building the kind of bots that you want. We do have another option for non-SharePoint customers. We have a standalone bot core, which can be deployed directly as an application in Azure. So if you don't have Office 365 or if you don't have SharePoint, please talk to us. We can provide that option to you as well. So here you have the option to manage all of your intents. You can create multiple intents. So an intent maps to what scenario the bot would work on. So here you can easily define your intents. So for example, if you want to define a greeting intent, you can say, okay, I want to define a generic greeting hello intent. And then you can type all of the different utterances that users would typically use to greet the bot. And what we would do is we take all of these utterances and we train the language understanding model. So in the future, if the user comes and says hello in a totally different way that you haven't really trained the model for, it would use machine learning to be able to interpret the incoming message of the user and respond back in the right manner. So let's also take a look at something called as the knowledge base. Now here within the knowledge base, you can store all of the different intents that you create as well as what are the messages that the bot would respond with. And if you can see, the message format is something that we have defined which looks kind of like HTML. So it becomes really, really easy for a user to go ahead and define and start creating additional items. So every time you train the bot to do something new, you have to update the knowledge base. And then over a period of time, you would see that the bot would come back and give you certain suggestions as to what are some of the questions that users have been asking for, but it doesn't have a response yet. And that's something that you can train the bot and it can start learning all of those as well. We also have user management here within. So let me show you some of those screens. So these are the list of all the users who would be chatting with the bot. And every time a new user gets added, you will see that here within the screen. You can also authorize or unauthorize certain users to chat with the bot. So let's say you have a set of employees to whom you do not want to roll out a bot. You can turn them off from this particular console. You can also see what are the different authentication providers that you would want to support. So right now we have support for Office 365 and Azure AD, but you can also have other things like Facebook, etc. I spoke about multi-factor authentication, wherein the bots can send out an SMS. So here you can see a track of all of the different users and their mobile numbers and on what date and time the multi-factor authentication was done. And you can also see various logs like chat logs. You can keep a track of each and every chat message that the user has had with the bot. So essentially, with the bot core, we are able, all of the bots that you just saw, mesh bot, the customer support bot, the question and answering bot, and all of that, we are able to build these bots and more with the bot core. And this is something which we feel that will really help you to get started on your bots and your AI journey. Okay, so I think that's what I had to present, and I know that we are nearing the close of our webinar. So over to you, Vinisha.
Thanks, Abhishek. It looks really exciting to listen about it. And now I would like to ask you one last question. Please help me with your responses. So here's it. What are the conversational channels you wish to use? Web, Slack, Skype for Business, Skype, or others?
Okay, so this is Abhishek here back again, and looks like a lot of you have been asking for Skype for Business. Out of the polls, 45% of you have asked for Skype for Business. So let me show you a Skype for Business bot. And this is a custom connector that we have created. This is not something that Microsoft Bot Framework is currently supporting. But if you'd like to roll out your Skype for Business bot, we have built a connector by which you can roll out a Skype for Business bot for Skype for Business online as well as on-premise. So if I ask this bot, what can you do? And here, as you can see, Albot is a bot which is running within my Skype for Business. And this bot can do timesheet entries. And so, momentarily it'll answer questions about, what its capabilities are, etc. So if you're interested in rolling out Skype for Business bots, yes, we do have that capability as well. And we can help you to deploy your Skype for Business bot. Obviously, with Skype for Business, you do not get the rich experience that you get with Skype or Facebook Messenger, like buttons and carousels, etc. So instead of that, you'll have to use things like choice options, 1 for timesheet entry, 2 for timesheet query, so on and so forth. But you can get all of the smart and intelligent features with cognitive services and everything else that you have just seen with the Skype for Business bots as well. Okay, great. So I think we have a few minutes before the webinar closes, so I'm going to stop and then over to you again, Manisha.
That's really interesting, Abhishek. A big thank you for everyone who attended our webinar. Before we close, I would like to look at the questions. Okay, we have one question. Can you ask it to pull up the results in a chart or a pie graph?
Okay. So yeah, so the answer to that question is yes. We can ask the bots to pull up the results. As you saw in one of the bots that we had here, the results have come up in the form of a chart. So I asked a question, and then it brought back a chart. Obviously, the charting functionality is something that has to be either custom built, or the bot can take a screenshot of one of your existing Power BI reports or any other report that you have, and then bring that back as an image.
All right. So let me look at some more questions.
Okay, so there's a question from one of our participants. How can I get your platform? So yes, I think we have your contact details, and we'll be reaching out to you. However, you do have the option to send us an email at info@acuvate.com. Let me just bring up my last slide here, which has some of the contact details as well. Yeah. So currently our platform can be deployed on Azure, and that's something that we can provide to you. Okay, so there's one question on why is the Skype for Business bot response slow? The reason for that is currently the connector is running on one of our internal servers. As I said, this is not something that Microsoft is supporting. This is a custom connector that we have built. But if we deploy the connector on Azure, and we should be able to see some pretty fast performances. And if you'd like to know more about how this connector was built, do visit our blog on our company website. We have a detailed article that explains about the decision-making process and what were some of the SDKs and APIs that we leveraged from Microsoft Skype APIs as well as the Microsoft Bot Framework APIs to build the connector. Okay, so looks like we have no further questions. So, Vinisha.
Thanks everyone for your valuable time. Please visit our website or write to us for any questions. You can email us at info@acuvate.com, and we're social too. You can tweet us, you can share a post on LinkedIn, or you can always read our blog on our website, which is www.acuvate.com/blog. We look forward to see you all at our next webinar. Thank you.